I'm Claire Tietgen. I was teased every day, but now I feel more confident.
So whatever it is you like to do, people don't like it, make it cool.
I would say, first of all, just get out, go do something, whether it's band camp or something.
I'm not gonna stop. I'm gonna keep doing it because it's what I love and what I enjoy to do.
Bullied but not broken.
Hi, I'm Claire Tietgen with Bullied But Not Broken, and I have with me Ariel Helwani, a writer, reporter.
I want to be one of the voices of mixed martial arts.
Mixed Martial Arts Hour back in your life. And once again, thank you very much for coming on the show. I'll leave you alone now for at least a few weeks. Is the one and only George Rush St. Pierre. How about this? George, are you there?
When you see someone from the outside who knows nothing about MMA, start to really, go through the finer details of the sport. And Irish fans, you know what? Sometimes it's too much.
What has been your experience with bullies?
Well, I think throughout our lives we're always dealing with bullying or bullies. I grew up with two older brothers who at times, were rough on me, and that's just, the nature of growing up with older siblings. Not that they weren't good to me more often than not, but, teasing happens. I was a little bit bigger than my brothers, and sometimes they would tease me about those things, but, that always kind of helps you in life as you get older and you develop thicker skin. As I grew older, in elementary and high school, I didn't necessarily deal with a lot of bullying. I do remember one time I was in, I believe, the second grade, and there was a girl who would sit in front of me and just stare at me all day. And then one day she told me that her two older brothers didn't like me and that they would see me in the schoolyard. And I was very confused by this because I didn't really understand why they didn't like me. And it always kind of stuck with me, and I was very afraid about what they were going to do to me. Thankfully, they didn't do much. I think they confronted me one time, but that was pretty much it. When I got to college, I didn't necessarily deal with bullying per se, but I was very anxious about being in social settings and, intimidated by other students. And I feel like that's not a direct form of bullying, but just being around some people who like to puff their chest out, can make you feel a little small, and you have to learn how to deal with those people. And then, of course, in my professional life, you deal with some people who don't treat you very well or who try to intimidate you, put you down, and you have to overcome that as well. So I'm sure I'll be dealing with bullying and bullies my entire life, as we all will, and it's just a matter of, learning how to adapt and trying to be a better person.
What's your opinion on why bullies pick on people?
My general opinion on bullies is that they are, more often than not, insecure people who try to put other people down in order to make themselves feel better. And I think that if you try to look at bullies in that regard, you can actually feel a lot better. I feel like good people don't need to do that because they're secure and confident with who they are, and they gain more pleasure out of helping others and being kind to others, as opposed to bullies who gain pleasure for some strange reason by putting others down, insulting others, hurting others, and no one likes that, and we can all see through that. So I generally feel like bullies are just insecure human beings who don't have good souls, don't have good hearts, and for some reason they derive some kind of pleasure out of it. And, that's unfortunate, and you hope that over time they will see their ways and they will become better people. And I think it's sometimes up to us to help them to become better people. But I think if we always remember that these are just humans like us, that ultimately, they can't hurt us, but we can rise above them. I think that sometimes their words or their actions won't hurt us as much. Now, I know that's obviously easier said than done because in the moment you can be hurt But sometimes if you take a step back, it can help.
That's great. That's an interesting answer. Have you ever been threatened by a fighter when you're interviewing them?
I've never been threatened by a fighter. I mean, I have felt somewhat threatened. I mean, you know, some people have put their hands on me or have said not very nice things to me, but I've never, and maybe I've completely blocked it out of my mind, but I've never felt uncomfortable. I've never felt like I was, you know, in danger or anything like that. You know, I did, you know, I don't know if you remember this story or heard about this story, but when I was escorted out of the forum in Inglewood during UFC 199 and my credentials taken away, I mean, that I feel was a form of bullying and intimidation, and certain things were said that upset me and made me emotional. And, you know, you have to learn to deal with that and adapt and overcome. And so that was obviously like a somewhat, you know, traumatic, if you want to call it, experience. But, you know, here I am and still doing the job and still happy to be doing it.
Yeah, I heard about that. That was like, why? I don't get why they would do that. That's so weird. Have you ever dealt with bullies now as an adult, whenever it's cyberbullying people you do in business or people in general?
Sure. I mean, as I said, that incident happened back in June, so that was just 4 months ago. And, you know, it's interesting that you mentioned, you know, cyberbullying. I mean, you know, one of the small drawbacks of this particular job and kind of being in the public eye is you are, you know, you are open to that kind of criticism and bullying. I mean, I'm open to criticism. I like hearing from fans. I appreciate the feedback, whether it's negative or positive. I don't love, you know, when they insult you or when they try to be personal and they try to hurt you with their words. I mean, trolling, people call it. I've experienced that. And you know what I've actually experienced when it comes to trolls? And in particular, those who have, you know, continued to attack me. Once you reach out to them and ask them, okay, like, what exactly is the problem? Like, why do you have an issue with me? More often than not, they don't have a reason. They're just doing it to pass the time, or like I said, they're doing it because they're unhappy with their own lives. And I think that that's a fascinating byproduct of trolling. And so, yeah, you deal with it all the time. And at first, I used to let it, you know, when I first started my job, I used to really allow it to bother me, and I would get very upset and emotional, and my skin was very thin, and sometimes it's probably, you know, better served being a little thicker. But, you know, you can mute people on Twitter, you can block them. And my main thing is, like, you know, I didn't necessarily invite you into my, you know, one time I was with my family and we were on the beach and I was reading a lot of negative things, and it really bothered me, and it was a Sunday and it was a nice day, and I thought to myself, like, I didn't invite you into my Sunday. I didn't allow you to come and make me feel like, you know, like crap, so I'm going to block you. And that's when I started to block people. But now I don't really do it as much. I just like to mute people because I don't want to give them the satisfaction that I'm acknowledging whatever they're sending my way. If you mute them on Twitter, they can't tell. But that's generally how I deal with it. Sometimes I like to, you know, persistent. I love to just find out what the reason is. And I can tell you 99.999% of the time there is no reason. It's just to try to get a reaction. It's just rooted in jealousy or unhappiness. And, you know, that kind of makes me feel better because I try to be as good and nice as possible to everyone around me.
That's a good answer.
Thanks. Good question.
What makes you, like, what made you get into interview business? Like, what made you become an interviewer?
I always loved media. I always loved, you know, consuming media and watching interviews. And I'm a big sports fan. And I just love the art of interviewing. I love asking people questions. I love trying to get information out of people. I think that I have an inquisitive mind, especially when it's things that I'm very passionate about. You know, the funny thing is that in social settings, I'm not like the most outgoing guy. I don't love to like go to parties and things like that. But, you know, one-on-one, I just love asking people questions. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Home Alone. Have you ever seen the movie Home Alone?
Yeah.
you know that scene when they've slept in because their clocks went out because the power went out, and they're all like scurrying to get all their stuff to go in the van.
Yeah.
There's a boy asking the drivers of the vans like a million questions.
Yeah.
And he's like, does this van have four-wheel drive? Does that? And then the guy's like, I don't know, kid, hit the road. Well, when I was in high school, some of my friends would compare me to that guy because I would just ask a lot of questions. And just like pepper people with questions. So that's actually one of my favorite movies. And so my friends would compare me to that kid. And so I've always been interested in that. And I went into journalism school at Syracuse University. And I really loved, being a reporter and being a journalist. And thankfully I get to do it now, on a day-to-day basis. And it's a great way to make a living.
That's interesting. That's a very good, way to put it.
When did you start asking questions?
Probably about a year ago.
Why did you start?
I started because I realized that where I went to my gym where I did jitsu, and I asked this question to my coach and my dad. I was like, why aren't they coming back? Why are they just looking through the windows? And then I've been noticing that people want to do so many sports that they can't because they have no money. And I'm like, well, I'll raise money to help people in any way they can to do what they love to do.
Wow. That's very nice of you.
Yeah. Who has been your favorite guest and why?
Oh my. I don't like to pick a favorite only because I feel like I'm choosing, between my children. But I really have a lot of respect, and I'm very thankful for anyone who gives me time out of their day, whether it's 5 minutes, 15, 20 minutes, whatever, and feels like it's worth their while to come on my show or to do an interview with me. I mean, obviously there are some guests who are more entertaining than others, but it varies. I can sit here and list 100 people who I just love speaking to. Obviously, Conor McGregor is very entertaining.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, he's great. Nate Diaz. I love talking to Daniel Cormier and Chris Weidman, Ali Quinta. Dominic Cruz is fantastic. Demetrius Johnson. I mean, I would really say that we're so lucky that we get to cover this sport because the fighters are so accessible, and they're such interesting human beings. They're such a pleasure to talk to. They're unlike any other professional athlete, in my opinion. So I honestly, truly don't have a favorite. George St. Pierre is another favorite of mine, but I don't have one singular favorite. I really like talking to the majority of them.
Nice. They all are very enjoyable people.
Totally. I agree.
What has been the craziest thing that has happened on an interview or on your show?
Craziest thing? I mean, the first thing that just came to mind now was when I had Mayhem Miller on my show. This was back, I don't know if you saw this, but he came on the show in character from a movie, Here Comes the Boom, and he was acting sort of like an old Irish fighter, and he blew up and acted a little crazy and hit the cameras and all this stuff. So at that moment, I wasn't really quite sure what was going on, and he didn't give me the heads up on that one. But I would say that that's probably one of the crazier moments, at least on my show. It's always very entertaining, and there's so much that happens. One thing that I keep telling myself that I need to do is sort of write down my experiences so I don't forget them. Maybe one day I'll write a book about all this craziness. But when you asked that question, that was the first thing that came to mind.
Yeah, that sounds pretty crazy. I'm gonna actually look that up and watch that. That sounds really unusual.
Yeah, if you go on YouTube, and I think if you put in Mayhem Miller, Ariel Helwani, and the MMA Hour, the clip will come up of him, acting a fool, so to speak.
If you became a fighter in the UFC, what would your nickname be, and what kind of fighting style would you have?
Well, my first job in radio back in the year 2000 on CFMB 1280 AM in Montreal, the host guy by the name of Aaron Amadeus called me the franchise because he said that I was sort of like the future, and I was a young guy. I was 18 years old, and so that's really been the only nickname that I've had. Some people still call me that at times. So I guess it would be the franchise. And fighting style, I think I would be a little bit of a brawler. Maybe not great at anything in particular, but, you know, kind of a jack of all trades. And if you're wondering what my walkout song would be, I don't know if you are, but
I'm so wondering that.
I think I would go with Three Little Birds by Bob Marley, because I love that song, and it's very soothing and relaxing, and it puts me in a great mood, and it reminds me of when I became a dad for the first time, and I play that for my son a lot, so I think I would go with that song. And there's actually some fighters who come out to it, like Palace Ladies and Mark Diacasi, and I think it's pretty awesome to come out to that song, so that's what I would pick.
Yeah, I'm always so interested in, like, why people pick their fight songs. Like, why that song was the fight song for a reason.
Yeah, some people I think will pick, like, a really upbeat song. Some people will pick a hard song to get them pumped up. And I could definitely see value in that. I just really like that song. It puts me in a good mood. So I feel like I would be very nervous before my fight, and maybe that would calm me down just a little bit.
Yeah.
Not to say that I am considering fighting, by the way, but in hypothetical world.
Yeah. Have you ever done jitsu, the sport that I did?
Yes. Yes, I have done it. It has been a couple of years, but when I was living in Manhattan, I would do it. I've done it a few times in Brooklyn, and I didn't grow up doing any kind of martial art. I was more of a team sports kind of guy. When I was in, elementary and high school, I played a lot of basketball, baseball, soccer, hockey. There wasn't a lot of football where I grew up, but those were the main sports. In particular, basketball was the sport I really liked. I played that. I still play it every week in a league. And so when I started to become an MMA journalist and really take the job seriously, I felt that it was important to at least have some basic understanding of being, a jiu-jitsu practitioner and being on the mat. And I wish I could do more stuff. It's just a little difficult these days, being a father of two and traveling and, trying to help. And so, and of course the job takes a lot of my time, so I don't have a lot of free time to go and practice, but maybe, someday down the line I'll get more of an opportunity. I enjoyed it very much. I do love playing team sports, though, because I love the camaraderie and, being with teammates and just sort of working together. It's just funny because, I love covering MMA, but if I had, my druthers as far as, what do you want to do on a Thursday night, it's sometimes fun to do something not related to MMA so that my mind can go elsewhere, if you know what I mean, because I spend so much time thinking about MMA.
Yeah. Okay, so this is so, related to what we just talked about, but as a parent, how would you help your kids deal with bullies?
Well, it's funny that you say that because just yesterday, my older son, his name is Oliver, his teacher, he's 4 years old, his teacher told me that a boy bit him in school, and so she also told me that, his group of friends they're kind of acting up lately, and they're not listening as much as they should or as well as they should. And so I actually spoke to him last night and told him about being a leader and not, following the pack. And if a group of kids aren't doing something well that you shouldn't follow, and if someone hurts you, you don't retaliate by hurting them. You go tell a grown-up, and, you don't let it get to you. You just, tell the grown-up, and then you say that you're not happy about this, and you move elsewhere and you go play with other kids. So I'm starting to enter the phase where, my son will deal with these sorts of things, and I hope he doesn't have to deal with it often, but I recognize that it's a fact of life. And so it's funny that you asked me that because we just had that conversation last night, and I haven't seen him yet, but I'm curious. And, a 4-year-old is not very expressive, and he's not really going to tell you everything that happened in his day, but I'm looking forward to seeing him in a bit and asking him, okay, how did today go? Were you more of a leader? Were you listening to your teachers? Were you playing nicely with your friends? Were you sharing? and not, acting up and, hogging toys and pushing back and things like that. So we'll see. It's an ongoing process, as you know.
Yeah.
Hey, this is Ariel Helwani, mixed martial arts reporter, and I support Bullied But Not Broken and the E3 Scholarship Fund. I'm also a big fan of Claire's. Go Claire!